Soul food restaurants once filled every black neighborhood with the smell of fried chicken, collard greens, and cornbread. They were living rooms where families celebrated, elders told stories, and kids sneaked extra biscuits. One by one, they disappeared. And the reasons reveal something deeper than changing tastes. Gentrification squeezed soul food joints out of existence. As neighborhoods like Harlem transformed, landlords raised rents and small restaurants couldn't keep up. The aroma that once greeted you, savory fried chicken, simmering collard greens, cornbread baking, faded as storefronts turned into boutiques and coffee shops. Families had treated these places like their living rooms. Sunday dinners after church, birthday parties, and wake repasts happened around communal tables, where elders told stories and kids sneaked biscuits. Regulars remember cracked vinyl booths patched with duct tape, framed photos of Dr. King or Harold Washington on the walls, and waitresses who called everyone sweetie while refilling pitchers of sweet tea. The spaces felt like home because they were home, extensions of the kitchens and porches where neighbors gathered. When the rent doubled or tripled, owners who had fed the block for decades couldn't afford to stay. The buildings remained, but the soul left with them. Inflation eroded profits until restaurants couldn't survive. Staples like oxtails and catfish, once cheap cuts and everyday fish, climbed in price so high that owners couldn't serve them without charging more than customers could pay. Old-school diners were known for generous plates, steaming fried chicken, smothered pork chops, greens cooked with ham hocks, all tasting like home despite low prices. Regulars came after work to unwind with neighbors, share gossip over meatloaf and macaroni and cheese, and offer advice to younger patrons. Menus proudly listed inexpensive comfort foods like oxtails, catfish nuggets, and turkey legs. Then, seemingly overnight, those same dishes became pricey specialty items at upscale bistros. Diners remember being shocked. How could the food they'd eaten their whole lives suddenly be unaffordable? The plates got smaller, the prices climbed, and the families who had counted on these meals for generations found themselves priced out of their own cuisine. Beginning in the late 20th century, critics labeled soul food as unhealthy. They called it slave food, blamed it for high blood pressure and obesity, and pushed diners toward lighter options. Despite the criticism, the taste of crispy chicken fried in cast-iron skillets and creamy macaroni and cheese still warms memories. Grease popping on stoves, the smell of smoked turkey necks and collard greens filling the kitchen. Families gathered for the joyous act of getting a plate, knowing a heavy meal could stretch into hours of conversation and laughter. Traditional dishes like chitlins, hog maws, and sweet potato pies were lovingly prepared during holidays, even when public opinion turned against them. The food carried stories, recipes passed from grandmother to mother to daughter, traditions that connected generations. But as the narrative shifted, shame crept in. People started apologizing for what they ate, hiding plates at potlucks, whispering about their love for dishes that had once been sources of pride. The cuisine didn't change. The way people saw it did. In the 1990s, KFC launched its Neighborhood KFC campaign, with Afrocentric decor and menu items like collard greens and red beans to attract African American customers. By 2013-14, African Americans derived 20% of their food energy from fast food, compared with 15% for whites. Soul food restaurants once smelled of bacon fat and pepper vinegar, but soon the scent of French fries and commercial fryers wafted over neighborhoods as quick-serve chains set up shop. Where elders once lingered over plates of fried chicken and cornbread, families began grabbing drive-through meals between multiple jobs or errands. Corporate chains even co-opted black culture. Some KFCs painted walls red, black, and green and added bean dishes to woo customers away from locally owned soul food spots. The chains were fast, cheap, and everywhere. They didn't offer the warmth of a grandmother's smile or the weight of a home-cooked meal, but they offered convenience. And in a world where time became scarce, convenience won. In cities like Chicago, nearly 17% of the Black population left, taking with them the multi-generational patronage that kept restaurants afloat. Longtime diners fondly recall the warmth of crowded dining rooms where neighbors greeted each other by name and grandmothers whispered secrets over plates of candied yams. Soul food joints acted as social centers where children learned etiquette, teens met friends after school, and adults checked on one another's well-being. The restaurants weren't just about food. They were about being seen, being known, being part of something. When families moved to the suburbs or returned to the South, beloved spots with photos of regulars and handwritten menus lost their core supporters. The dining rooms emptied out. The laughter faded. Owners tried to hold on, but without the steady stream of familiar faces, the bills piled up. Eventually, the doors closed. The storefronts sat empty, windows papered over, and the neighborhoods they once anchored felt a little less like home. Early soul food entrepreneurs who opened restaurants during segregation grew old or died, and few younger Black chefs wanted to be pigeonholed in a cuisine considered outdated. The memory of a matriarch stirring pots of gumbo or a patriarch perfecting fried chicken batter evokes family recipes passed down orally. Many restaurants served as training grounds where young people washed dishes, learned to cook, and absorbed life lessons from elders. When those elders retired, recipes for dishes like peach cobbler or red velvet cake sometimes went with them, leaving empty storefronts and unfinished photo walls. The younger generation had different dreams: culinary school, fusion menus, restaurant concepts that didn't carry the weight of history or stereotype. They didn't want to be defined by collard greens and cornbread, so the knowledge walked out the door. The techniques, the timing, the touch, gone. What remained were memories and empty kitchens where something irreplaceable once lived. Trendy, Southern-inspired bistros, opened by non-Black restaurateurs, sold collard greens in mini cocottes and tri-colored cornbread at high prices, pushing out humble soul food joints and erasing their cultural context. What were once smoky dining rooms with jukeboxes and floral tablecloths morphed into minimalist spaces with Edison bulbs and craft cocktails. Longtime patrons lament the family reunions and church groups no longer feel welcome amid white tablecloth service and unfamiliar faces. Staple dishes like oxtails, turkey legs, and catfish nuggets, once hearty, affordable fare, became expensive artisanal items served with saffron rice or duck fat, alienating the communities that created them. The food looked similar, but it wasn't the same. It didn't carry the history, the hands that made it, or the love that went into every pot. It was soul food without the soul, pretty plating and high margins, served to people who never knew what it meant to gather around a table after church and eat until you couldn't move. As white consumers embraced authentic Southern vegetables, items like collard greens, once affordable to Black families, became trendy and costly. The nostalgic scent of collard greens simmering with fatback or smoked turkey is now bittersweet when those greens cost more than many can afford. Restaurants that once filled plates with cheap vegetables had to shrink portions or substitute ingredients, altering family Sunday dinners. People remember buying crates of greens and sweet potatoes from local street vendors. Now they see them packaged in upscale supermarkets with artisan price tags. The irony was cruel. Foods that had sustained Black families through poverty and struggle were suddenly too expensive for those same families to buy. Ingredients that had been dismissed, ignored, or mocked were now celebrated and marked up. The cuisine was praised, but the people who created it were priced out. The tables that once overflowed with abundance now sat half empty, portion sizes smaller, flavors stretched thin. Prominent Black figures such as Eldridge Cleaver and Elijah Muhammad decried soul food as a legacy of slavery, discouraging community support. Despite the criticism, the smell of chitlins simmering in vinegar or the sweetness of molasses on biscuits still stirs powerful childhood memories. Families held on to these recipes as cultural heirlooms, gathering for New Year's Day, black-eyed peas, or Thanksgiving dressing, even when outsiders mocked the traditions. On the walls of many soul food diners hung posters with sayings like, "Soul food, come on in, your family," reminding patrons to celebrate heritage even amid criticism. But the rhetoric left scars. People stopped bringing friends to their favorite spots, worried about judgment. Young people distanced themselves from foods their grandparents cherished, embarrassed by dishes tied to painful history. The pride that once filled dining rooms, pride in survival, in making something beautiful from scraps, was replaced by shame. The food hadn't changed, but the story around it had been rewritten by voices that didn't understand what it meant to transform suffering into sustenance. Some family-run restaurants operated in aging buildings without resources for upgrades and were shut down for unsanitary conditions. For example, M&M Soul Food Cafe in Las Vegas was closed for failing to keep dishes clean and workers washing hands properly. Eaters remember the comforting clutter of mismatched plates, squeaky screen doors, and grease-coated fryers in spots that felt like extended kitchens. Communities still packed these establishments despite peeling paint and wobbly chairs because the food and camaraderie mattered more than polish. To-go orders were handed through sliding windows in brown paper sacks. Plastic forks, styrofoam cups, and hot sauce bottles sat on every table. But health inspectors didn't see charm, they saw violations. Owners who had cooked for decades suddenly faced fines they couldn't pay and renovation costs they couldn't afford. The choice was simple: spend money they didn't have or close the doors. Most chose the latter. The buildings that had fed entire neighborhoods for generations were condemned, boarded up, forgotten. Critics and health authorities spurred subgenres like down-home healthy, vegan soul food, and upscale fusion. While creative, these fractured the audience for traditional dishes. Classic soul food restaurants relied on the rich flavors of butter, lard, and smoked meats, a taste that newer diners sometimes dismissed as heavy. Families who still loved fried chicken and gravy felt pressured to prove they were eating healthy and visited less often. The smell of smoky fatback rendering in a pot of collard greens or the sizzle of chicken in hot lard evoked comfort and tradition. But it also carried guilt. Trendy menus swapped goat cheese and saffron for cheddar and ham hocks, leaving elders craving the simple dishes of their youth. The restaurants that adapted struggled to satisfy both camps: traditionalists who wanted their food the way grandma made it, and newcomers who wanted quinoa and kale. In trying to please everyone, many pleased no one. The soul got lost in translation. In areas like West Harlem, rising housing prices and the replacement of local grocery stores with national chains meant residents had to travel farther or depend on fast food. Soul food kitchens once smelled of fresh fish from local markets, chickens bought from neighborhood butchers, and okra picked from backyard gardens. People would stop at the restaurant after shopping at mom-and-pop grocers, trading recipes and gossip while dropping off their bags. The relationships were symbiotic. Restaurants bought from local vendors, vendors sent customers to the restaurants, and everyone knew everyone. As grocery giants moved in and local vendors disappeared, ingredients like smoked turkey wings and neck bones became harder to find, altering the menus that defined these eateries. Owners had to order from distant suppliers or settle for frozen substitutes that didn't taste the same. The freshness, the flavor, the care, all diminished. The food still arrived on plates, but it lacked the soul that came from knowing the butcher, the fishmonger, the farmer. The supply chain broke, and so did the connection. Chains like Chick-fil-A marketed Southern identity, complete with chicken coops and farm imagery. to sell fried chicken while the profits bypassed black communities. Meanwhile, the fragrance of homemade sweet tea and fried okra from black-owned cafes contrasted with the corporate smell of waffle fries and chicken tenders. Church groups and family reunions that once reserved tables at local institutions now booked chain restaurants with kid-sized play areas and digital kiosks. Decor at these chains borrowed aesthetics of black cuisine, mason jars, cast iron skillets on walls, without acknowledging the people who invented the dishes, diluting loyalty to hometown spots. The packaging was there, but the people weren't. The profits didn't circulate back into the neighborhoods that created the food. Instead, they flowed to boardrooms and shareholders who had never sat at a communal table after church, never tasted the real thing, never understood what it meant. The culture was sold, repackaged, and stripped of its context. What remained was a hollow imitation. In formerly soul food hubs like West Harlem and Morningside Heights, upscale eateries and diverse cuisines eclipsed traditional spots as neighborhoods grew whiter and wealthier. Guests used to savor the scent of mustard greens and bacon fat as they walked down blocks lined with soul food signs, but those streets now feature artisanal coffee and sushi. Regulars who once dined with neighbors after church found themselves outnumbered by new residents unfamiliar with or uninterested in their food. The intimate warmth of red vinyl booths, checkered tablecloths, and gospel records playing softly in the background gave way to chalkboard menus and reclaimed wood communal tables. Soul food restaurants that had anchored blocks for decades suddenly looked outdated, unwelcome in their own neighborhoods. The new diners wanted tapas, poke bowls, and brunch cocktails, not neck bones and black-eyed peas. Owners watched foot traffic pass their doors, heading instead to the new spots with Instagram-worthy interiors. The economic viability vanished. The culture was pushed aside for trends that came and went, leaving nothing lasting behind. As awareness of diet-related diseases grew, many African American families cooked lighter versions at home or sought restaurants with healthier menus. Although the nostalgic smell of fried chicken and cornbread buttered with bacon grease still lingers, some elders removed pork fat from greens and baked instead of fried to protect their health. Families began celebrating milestones at salad bars or grilled chicken franchises instead of at greasy spoon diners. Memories of cast iron skillets and bubbling pots remain strong, even as modern kitchens replace them with air fryers and non-stick pans. The shift wasn't driven by outsiders alone. It came from within. People loved the food but feared what it might do to their bodies. Doctors' warnings about cholesterol, diabetes, and hypertension weighed heavily. The joy of a full plate competed with the anxiety of a full waistline. So they stopped going as often, stopped ordering the dishes they loved, stopped passing recipes to the next generation. The cuisine survived in memory, but not in practice. Soul food restaurants once acted as living museums and economic engines where African Americans found acceptance and mentorship. As communities scattered, these places lost their purpose. The sensory memory of a packed dining room, humming with laughter and gospel music, is inseparable from the food itself. Parents trusted restaurant owners to watch children, hear elders' stories, and sponsor local sports teams, making these spots extensions of home. Walls filled with Polaroids of regulars and hand-painted menus, announcing Meatloaf Mondays, Peach Cobbler Wednesdays, and live jazz nights, stand as bittersweet reminders of how much more than food was lost. When the people left, the restaurants became empty shells. The gatherings stopped. The mentorship ended. The sense of belonging faded. What remained were hollow buildings with faded signs and dusty photos on the walls. Testaments to a time when the community was whole. Without the people, the food had no meaning. Without the gatherings, the restaurants had no soul. They closed, not because the food was bad, but because there was no one left to share it with. Soul food restaurants didn't just disappear. They were erased by forces economic, cultural, and systemic. Gentrification raised rents. Inflation made staples unaffordable. Health critics shamed the cuisine. Fast food chains and upscale imitators drained customers. Founders aged out without successors. Communities scattered, supply chains broke, and the social fabric that held these spaces together unraveled. What was lost wasn't only fried chicken and collard greens. It was mentorship, memory, belonging, and pride.